I know I'm about to get so much flack for this video here, but okay. Here we go. I know. I own a GH5, but I never recommend it. Let's get into the video. Alright y'all, what's going on everybody? My name is Sean Brooks, creator director at Brookssmedia. I'm a videographer based in Chicago. This channel offers camera advice, camera reviews, and lens reviews, and also entrepreneur experience to help you along your business journey as becoming a better videographer and a better videographer as a business person. And now if that sounds like something that interests you, make sure you sub to the channel and then follow me on Twitter and IG at Brookssmedia to get exclusive BTS content. Other than that, let's get into the video. I want to say this, I gotta preface the video and say this. I love my camera. Okay, I love my GH5. I think it's one of the best cameras out there. Pound for pound, I can bang with any camera out there on the block. This camera is made in 2017 and still rivals cameras to this day. If I'm not mistaken, but I think besides the 1DX Mark III, it is the only mirrorless camera, especially in this size and this body, even compared to the full frame cameras. It's the only camera that does 4K 60 unlimited with a full sensor readout. And I think Fuji and obviously Blackmagic. So other than that though, it's in a league of its own. Also too, just the overall image look of this camera, like I love it. Like at not one point in time, however, sitting here looking at my GH5 like, man, see, if I had a full frame camera, this shot would have been so much better. It just doesn't happen. The only thing that I really wish my camera had, honestly, was better. It was phase detect autofocus. That's honestly it. Everything else I can work around. And I ain't even working around the autofocus, but nonetheless though, let's get into why I recommend the Sony a7 III for people who are just buying a camera or just Sony period when they're just buying a camera. Number one, so whether it's APS-C or full frame, they're getting a bigger sensor than Micro Four Thirds. Now a bigger sensor is not always the telltale image of how something's going to look, but it does have benefits over Micro Four Thirds, and I just can't rule that out. And I don't want to sit there and have somebody buy into a system for the most part that's kind of closed in, and on top of that, there are sensors that are better than it in certain aspects. So I usually recommend Sony out the gate, usually sometimes for the biggest sensor. That's number one. Number two, with that bigger sensor comes the difference in photo quality, photo details, and low light. Yes, the Sony cameras are I don't know what type of little lucky charm or little leprechaun they got in their cameras, fam, you know what I'm saying? Like, but their low light capabilities on their cameras are amazing, even with the APS-C sensors. Like my buddy Sean Miles, who I shoot weddings with, he has an A6600 and an A7 III, and both of those cameras are phenomenal in low light. I love the way they look. They're just very, very clean, even at very high ISO ranges. And again, and if you compare that to something like the GH5 isn't trash in low light, but it is a smaller sensor, and there are sensors that handles low light better. So I have to kind of be fair when I recommend cameras to people when they're not experienced like I am with the sensor of this size. Now, the next reason is gonna be autofocus. Now, here's the thing. I know I make videos all the time saying how I can use the GH5 with autofocus and I make it work. And for the most part, not for the most part, I make it work. You feel what I'm saying? Like, if you go look at any of my footage or any of my portfolio work at www.brooksmedia.com/portfolio, you can see all of my professional work, and I use autofocus for 90% of that content that you see on there. There's hardly ever a time I don't use autofocus on my GH5, and it's because I know in which situations how autofocus is gonna work best with my GH5. So I put myself in those situations only. But with the Sony camera, it doesn't matter what situation you're in, the autofocus is phase detect and it just works better. For those who don't know, with the difference between phase detect and what the GH5 has, contrast-based autofocus, those are two totally separate different things. Phase detect works with anything that shifts, any type of movement. Again, that's why it's called phase detect, phase shift. Any type of shift of movement, the camera will pick that up, read that up, and try to pull that in focus. Whether with contrast based is looking for the most contrasty areas to pull in focus, in which sometimes that calls to a lot of hunting. Now, if you get like a lot of hunting and some people footage who shoots on Micro Four Thirds who don't know how to control their autofocus, you get a lot of hunting in the background, in which you don't get on phase detect autofocus system in most cases. And honestly, Sony's phase detect, in my opinion, it rivals or is just up there on par with Canon's dual pixel autofocus. I think those two autofocus systems, you can't lose either one, but either way, both of those are better than what you get on contrast base and the GH5. So now, The very last thing, but it's also like the ultimate reason why I would choose a A7 III or just a Sony mount or just a Sony camera over a GH5, it's because of the lens mount. Yes, the GH5 has a lot of lenses, a lot of affordable lenses as well. Prime example, I'm shooting currently on a 50mm f1.7, well I'm sorry, a 25mm because of the crop factor. I'm shooting on a 25mm f1.7, which is the equivalent of a 50mm. I bought this lens literally from like MPB. I traded in 2 lenses, I didn't spend anything for this lens. The Sigma 16mm I got right here, I only paid 320 bucks for this lens. So don't get me wrong, the GH5 and Micro Four Thirds, they definitely have a great lens selection and a very good affordable lens selection, but it stops there. So here's what I mean. If I wanted to take if I want to take any of these camera lenses and put them on like a Panasonic S1 because I decided I wanted to upgrade to full frame, I can't do that. Versus someone with a Sony camera, it doesn't matter what camera system they buy. If they bought an APS-C sensor, they bought a full frame sensor, or if they bought a cinema camera, the E-mount covers the lenses on all 3 camera bodies. I don't even know how they did that. You feel what I'm saying? Like, and I can't recommend something like a Micro Four Thirds system because pretty much when you buy into that, you like, all right, that's it. You better start buying Micro Four Thirds lenses only, or don't buy so many lenses if you know you're gonna upgrade. But for me, I love my camera, so I have no real need to upgrade right now. But if I did own like a Sony a6600, I'm like, you know what? I really want to get an A7 III. Whatever lenses I have for the a6600, which is on an APS-C sensor, is going to go right into that full frame sensor, the A7 III. Now I'm like, you know what? The production is stepping up. I got a 2-camera system now. I'm balling out a little bit. I'm going to give me like a Sony FX9. Every lens that I own for my Sony a7 III and my a6600 now can go right into the FX9. So now I have a cinema camera, a full frame camera, and an APS-C camera that all share the same lenses. So if I want to get bold and just kind of crazy with the production, I got a 3-camera setup and they all use the same lenses. Like, I didn't have to spend more money on lenses, and that's the biggest thing where people are buying into cameras. I try to get them to buy into a camera that's gonna be able to coast them for a long time, just in case they ever decide they want to upgrade, or they just kind of feel like, you know, they just want like a different camera, like, or a bigger body, but don't want to sit there and spend a whole bunch more money on lenses. Like for me, for example, when I trade in this GH5, I have to get rid of all my lenses. I don't know when I'm gonna do that unless I decide to stay with the GH6 when that comes out. But I can't upgrade to a full frame sensor versus someone like who can on Sony. So those are my reasons why I recommend something like an A7 III over a GH5. But I do want to say this. I also ask you a certain amount of questions before I just sit there and make a recommendation. If they are video based, I will recommend the GH5 hands down either way, no matter what. Because I think the GH5 just has better video features and better video codecs than something like on a Sony a7 III. Now I'm not gonna sit there and talk about why like the Sony a7 III has like 8-bit versus 10-bit. That's a whole nother video within itself. Both of them does great video, but yes, the GH5 does have 10-bit. And if you have a Ninja V, at the most you can even get 10-bit 422 with the Ninja Atomos recorder at 4K 60. So if that's something that really interests you, I would still recommend a GH5, but I still feel like Sony cameras and even an a7 III offers an overall better value for what you're trying to get, especially when you look at future-proofing yourself. But I am curious though, what camera do you own? And if at some point if you own a GH5 or if you own a GH5 now, have you ever considered switching to Sony or like an a7 III? If so, why? Comment down below. I'm very, very curious. I've been juggling with this back and forth for a lot. But if you enjoyed the video, man, go ahead and make sure you give it a thumbs up, sub to the channel. I know y'all was feeling the content. I even felt this video as I was making it. So I know you did. So it's your boy Sean Brooks, man. I'm out. Deuces.